Hello, everyone. My name is Tooways Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So, for those listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a rating for the podcast. Now, if you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Kevin Werters, a chartered accountant who is a corporate content creator and project control at a multinational company.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, Wes, thanks for allowing me to come onto the podcast, man, to the live stream. Thank you, man.
Let's jump straight in.
Yeah.
Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Kevin Werters? Give us that backstory.
Yo, well, I identify as a chartered accountant. I think that's a good achievement. And yet I think there's so much more to that. I think we're very multifaceted. If you speak to anyone, and I think just to delve into a bit of like my history on it. So yeah, I grew up in an area called Bosmont. It's out in Johannesburg. Uh, one of six kids. Parents died early, unfortunately. So I was raised by the siblings. And yeah, just watch them grind through life and trying to make ends meet for us. For the younger ones. I'm the youngest, so I was very much resting on their goodwill. And then yeah, just seeing their hard work and their resilience really set up a good platform for me. I managed to get a bursary in my matric year from Deloitte, which allowed me to go and study at UJ. But the crazy fact over here, up until my first lecture at UJ, I had never done one day of accounting. It's a crazy thing. So I did really well at maths in high school, but they didn't even offer accounting at our school. But I was looking for a bursary, and when I did some career guidance, the guy said maybe this chartered accounting thing is something that you could do. So up until that point, I had never met a chartered accountant. So in this little leap of faith that I believe it was, the door opened up. Deloitte offered a bursary for me to go and study, and that's how I got in there. So in UJ, it was crazy, and I think you speak to a lot of aspiring CAs, and it is a tough route that we have. I mean, for normally, right? If you have accounting, so I remember in our first year, we'd be in this big. It was called B-Les in at UJ. There's about 400 students that are sitting in there, and like I really do believe now I believe that I've been outworking everybody that was over there because I had no cooking clue about what this accounting thing was, right? So there would be 6 classes available, 4 for like the mainstream accounting, and then there was 2 for like the guys that are just doing accounting on the side. I'd be attending 5 of those in a week. It was repeat classes, and the only reason why I couldn't attend the 6th one was because the one accounting class was at the same time as the mainstream. So really worked out, and I think getting a 50% on my first paper was still today is like one of my greatest achievements. You'd think it's like, guys, it's accounting 1. But yeah, and it was a tough thing because I think there was about in excess of like 900 students in that first class. See, 800, and that got whittled down to 300 in the second year, which we managed to make through, which again then also got halved. I'm sure you would have seen that half until you kind of get into honors. And that was just a crazy experience, managing to just like make the cut every single time, but working like crazy to get through it all. Come honors, the guys, and I think there's a lot of people that have struggled to honors and maybe still struggling with honors. It's the most difficult year. If there's anybody watching that has not experienced CTA or honors, it's an absolutely crazy. I remember our lecturer, her name is still Erika Yiman, in our first lecture, right, in accounting, she says, she encourages us to go and watch that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. I was like, that one with Will Smith, the one where he's like destitute and like, struggling through everything. She's like, yes, that one. Because that's what your life is going to be like. Say goodbye to your family, say goodbye to your friends, for a few
He's
years.
not lying.
Just here's the crazy thing about it, right? I in my mind I made that decision. Okay, fine, I'm gonna set this time up, and till to date, it's probably one of the busiest years that I had. So I'm quite involved in the community, quite involved in our, in my church and all that stuff. And in that year, like the guy that was running the youth program left. So they left it to me and a few other people to run that. We were running a kids program. I do music. So in the church, we help with the music and that. I'm running that. We're doing these concerts and all of these crazy things, right? And you're trying to manage that through the CA. I mean, through your honors year. And I really believe that it was like a move of faith, because I said, like, this is all the time that I have that I can do it, and I was like working like crazy. But I was never going to be able to catch up to the guys that were putting in their 12, 14-hour days, when I'm just barely getting through on 7 because I'm busy with everything else. So I wanted to drop a knowledge bomb there. Number one,
I
that
like it.
that I realized is that you will never have enough time to do what you want to do. So do it anyways. Right? And I think that's just something that I'm sure you can testify to it as well. Like, you've got 100 different things that you want to do, but you're just never going to get enough time to get through it all. So you just got to prioritize, maximize, squeeze the juice out of every hour in the day, and just enjoy it. And then got through the honors at least. That was also amazing. I got my accounting was like a 50. I'm almost sure that I got the condone pass by somebody's grace. They allowed me to get through. And then went to do my honors over there at Deloitte. So we were working in the entrepreneurial division now, but we're talking now quite a few years back. Deloitte has changed the structure since, but the idea with this division was that you would work with smaller companies, where the lines got a bit blurry, where you're kind of helping with the financial statements and, like just helping to coach and advise all the way through. So that was massive learning that happened over there. And I loved those 3 years. It was a challenge, doing the qualifying exam through it as well, but got through. And then, I finished up 2011. So 2012, I was, registered with SICA, and then went to work in Miami in the US as part of Deloitte's exchange program. So that was crazy going in busy season, But the lovely thing was, like, Miami was hot. So their winter is in that January to April period when it's their busy, but Miami was like moderate temperature. Think of like Durban on steroids.
Oh,
Really.
wow.
So yeah, came back, did some work with there was a FMCG company I worked for. Then I did about 3 years managing Africa accounting for it's a fuel operation, and then 9 years in telecoms. So yeah, I've been around the block. Aye.
And outside of work?
Outside of work. That's one element of the work thing, right? Outside of work is like I show up a lot here on LinkedIn. So been running with some personal branding, and we've got like a small business that I run myself and a very small team. So we're doing like photography and videography for corporates and stuff. So I've been shooting a lot of weddings and doing those kind of, like, previously, this is now many, many years back, but actually been picking that up and trying to play on the LinkedIn game. I'm married to a beautiful wife, got 2 kids. The 2 kids may just interrupt our conversation. So I do apologize in advance.
Or part
You know how it goes. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that Sky interview the one guy did.
Who can forget?
Maybe this will go viral. I don't know. Maybe I set it up. Help boost some views. But yeah, so I do a lot of that, and yeah, I do a lot of work in the community as well. We've got like this NPO that we help kids with addiction between 5 and 12. It's quite crazy. Children at the age of 5 that are addicted to glue, addicted to dacha, and getting onto other drugs. And that's crazy because I got a 5-year-old, and you're dealing with these other kids as well. So yeah, I don't have enough hours in a day. It's guaranteed, but I do what I'm doing.
So you do 2 very different things. I'm gonna ask each one separately. And forgive my ignorance, but what does a corporate content creator actually do?
It creates content for corporates. That as we moved into the digital age, and I'm really going to sound dated here by maybe using terminology that that some Gen Zs are going to roll their eyes at as we go through. But people companies want to show up in the digital space with their branding. They want to show up and talk about the deals that they do, the projects that they're in. We want to give time to the CEO to start building his brand, and that's where we kind of slotting in. When we're coming in with a solution, we're coming in with the with the content, at least prompting, well researched, to prompt, so actually to get that information out of the corporate so that they can present themselves in the best light, and in that way build their own brand as well. I don't know if I'm answering the question. If you have
No,
more,
you answered it.
it's quite broad.
First, you gave me the exact answer, but then you answered it. So,
Yes,
but
yes,
now the other side, the yin to your yang, I guess.
yes.
Project control and collections. What does
Yes,
that? What is that role? That seems like a more CA role as opposed
it
to a
is. It
content
is.
creator.
It is. So in that side, I mean, we're managing projects that are quite detailed end to end of businesses, and actually helping with the collection side. So it's more it tickles more the accounting side of things, if you want to say. That's kind of the bread and the butter, where the other side is more the nice jam that goes on top. But I find that, as I mentioned, like, I think we multifaceted, every single one of us, right? There's some people that are maybe more skewed in one direction, more analytical, more than. But to just say that that's who you are is, I think, is an insult to any person that you're trying to describe like that. So there are days where I remember there was this massive project that I've been working on. We did a shoot over the weekend with Hollard. It was a big thing. I was like running like crazy, right? The build up to it, the execution. And I told my wife the next day, because it was like, in the next week, I said, I'm listening to do an Excel spreadsheet now. I'm craving to do something where I can just, just it's so geeky, right? It's very geeky. But there's other days as well where I'm like so deep in analytics where I just want to go out, grab my camera, because I do the photography thing, and I just put on like a manual lens, and I'm just going out to go and shoot and just enjoy that side of life. So
It actually
really, I
follows
think
up
it's
to my
a
next question.
fine balance.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's very
but
interesting because it actually follows up to my next question, is because it feels like you're using different parts of your personality and different
yeah,
parts of your brain. How
yeah.
do you manage two very different roles? Like, because uh, I assume you can't just switch on and switch off. There must be some sort of change there.
Yes and no. You'd be surprised how complementary the two roles actually are. And that's why there's a focus, if you look at it on the corporate side, and that, so let's look at it from a corporate perspective. Like, you're doing presentations, you're meeting with the C-suite executives, when you're presenting your graphs, you're presenting your charts, and that, right? There's that element of engagement that you have to have that comes with it, that when you understand the psychology of the people, and how you present yourself, and whether you're folding your arms, whether you're open, are you making eye contact, are you being shifty eyed, how are you standing, all of that, right? That helps to build rapport in your presentation as you're doing your analytics, as you're explaining things out, right? And that you would get is from like your content creation side, because that's exactly what I'm doing now. I am staring at the camera, right? And I've got this like setup where you kind of on it, but I'm staring at the camera. But I need to be able to engage with the audience in such a way that it feels like I'm talking to the one person that's watching, right? So that's how that goes in. But then if you flip it to the other side, I've unfortunately seen many amazing photographers, right, and videographers that are the typical starving artist, just because they don't have that other side of it, that they can do the most amazing work, but they don't know how to present an offer to people where the value can be shown across, where they can charge to the extent of the value that they're giving. But because they don't have the analytical side of it, because they don't have that finance side to them, they feel like it's robbery to charge X amount, so they'll rather go X minus 40%, because that's what they're comfortable at. So those two, it's like this world that that I don't even like disengage them. It's not like I go and I put on this hat or that hat. Like I'm constantly, even in my presentations, like I see the aesthetic, man. You'll see how I'm trying to lay out even my presentations. This graph doesn't make sense. And I'll spend like half of my time preparing my analytics and the other half making sure that the presentation is good. And at no point in time am I like switching hats. It's just like as I'm going through it, like, this feels good. Like this feels like quality. And I do that. So yeah, it's a very strange balance that I got going on there.
I like it. I like it. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end, so please add your questions now to the comment section so that we don't miss them. And again, now you're doing two roles. How does your employer deal with you doing a separate role in corporate content creation?
So the corporate content thing is after hours and like on weekends that I do it. When it is like if there's anything that's done during the week, then the team can handle that. So it is, the thing that really helps with me is that I have discussed that with, because I've had different managers over the time and just kind of notifying them already from the start to say like, look, got this thing that I'm doing on weekends after hours and that, so that there's transparency on it, right? But even more important to that is actually just showing up when you need to, you know. And I'm very much aware of keeping my finger on the pulse to deliver 120, 150% all the time, and I mean you can always gauge that, and it's something that's very important that you have even as a content creator is to ask people for reviews, give me the Google review, give me the like, give me the subscribe. In a similar way, we do that with our employers when we're asking them for our KPI reviews and that, right? So when you're keeping your finger on the pulse, you're making sure constantly with all stakeholders, like that you guys, is everybody okay? Is there something that I could be doing better? And that, So it stretches me like crazy, man, because, to give 150% there and then to give 150% afterwards, still trying to balance with family, balance, with spending time with my wife, so that to make sure that all of those KPIs are met. It does take a toll on it, and at times it's difficult, bro. Like I'll be watching TV at 7 o'clock and I'm crashing because I'm tired and. But at the end of the day, I really do believe it's worth it, and I think these God-given abilities, like I feel a responsibility as well to use it to develop others, to do all of those things as well. So yeah.
And something says you enjoy it because you wouldn't put yourself through the suffering if you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. It's very much enjoyable. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think I wasn't also sugarcoated, right? Like the entrepreneurial game, it's tough. It's flipping difficult. And there's days where I would love to, like, on any given night, just Netflix and chill, right? And just like, but there's this like burning desire inside of me to want to actually, to do something that's worthwhile, to make an impact in my community. I think something, and something maybe that I actually realized it when I was talking to one of the other LinkedIn guys, York Suki. I said like one of my greatest achievements is my son is now 8 years old, the eldest one, and I've got a 5-year-old. I can safely say probably about 90% of our suppers, we've been around a table, looking each other eye to eye, nose to nose, and that's been something that I've been intentional about, of having that. The last thing that I ever wanted was to, climb the corporate ladder, be the greatest, and then come home to strangers. So yeah, I think that's what I enjoy. I really enjoy trying to find the balance between it all.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, your main job is your corporate job is in South Africa, but you're working for an international brand like Ericsson. Do you
Yeah.
find it different to work for an international company compared to working for a South African company? Are there expectations that are different, or is it pretty much the same?
I mean, there's different nuances about working in multinational. You always have a culture that's different, um, and you can have a South African flavor on top of an international company. So you try to bring that. I think for me, it's more a thing about sizing more than actual where the culture is, because when you have such a big corporate, You yes, you have your small division within there, but you're like a small cog in the much bigger machine. Whereas like the South African companies that I've worked for are like more localized, more you're more involved, if you want to call it, like end to end, like from the time that you're actually going to go and get the order from the customer presentation right until cash is collected. Like you're involved in every aspect of that. So yeah, so that's more the thing, more than I would say, because culture can be, it can be climatized. Like you can have a South African culture of a multinational. I would rather compare size to size. That's more where the finer nuances are.
Didn't think about size, but that's a good nugget.
Yeah.
Just moving back a little bit to your intro, you talked a little bit about your international secondment to the US. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about it and whether you would recommend others to go on?
Oh yeah. So the way that it worked was I guess it was, I actually haven't been in touch with Deloitte in a long while to see. I think they do still run that secondment program, but I guess all of the big order firms do have it. I would highly recommend it, man. Like especially, and I'm gonna be stereotyped here if I say that, but the majority of people that are qualifying as CASAs are probably in the young 20s, mid 20s, most likely single or in a relationship but not like married. I think it's probably the most amazing time to go out and actually just explore different country, be get that exposure, go and see how they do it over there. I mean, I was in the US. Man, they're crazy over there, bro. Like their busy period is like their busy season is crazy. Minimum 55-hour weeks. The guys were clocking in 70, 80 hours at times, people go into depression, and we had to like rally as South Africans, on email, chatting to each other. This is now obviously 12 years back before everything else was so prevalent with video calls. But I would highly, highly recommend it. Just the exposure that you get, the context that you make over on that side. And yeah, I think my only thing that I would take away was I was very homesick. I think that I had a lot of personal unfinished business that I'd been had to leave as a result of it. So maybe I didn't enjoy it as much as I could, and also the lack of, like, again, now this is now, video calling was there, but it wasn't as prevalent, as easy, as accessible as it is now. So that there was a different spin on it. So I think you just need to work through that, like just get your mind right to say, like, this is the 3 4 6 months that I'm just giving over here, and I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to work like a dog, and I'm going to enjoy the benefits. I mean, they paid us reasonably well, but even at our reasonable well rate, it was still like a quarter of the price of what first years were charging over there, or billing over there in the US. So like we were dirt cheap. I mean, we're effectively managers going to do grind work. So yeah, it was a win-win all around. I guess we could have won a bit more if we argued for more salary, but
What
well,
an
that's how it goes,
experience.
man. It's
That's true.
beautiful.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is one question I like to ask all my guests. What is
Yes.
one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Yo. Okay. I actually prepared a slide for this. I would
Let's do
I
it.
would tell myself. I would tell myself. In 5 years' time, your CASA would be on life support. Crazy, crazy thing there. I'll be like, what? Why would you go like that? Because of the second part is, if you think that a CASA is a destination and not part of your journey. Um,
You had me worried there for a second, but I'm glad you clarified.
but it's true. Like, when I've been coming up, and maybe, and it's gonna be different expectations for people, right? But like, I always thought, like, you're gonna get to the chartered accounting thing, and the world is gonna be like just bowing before you. Like it's all going to be laid out for you, and you're just going to chill, and. But what you realize is, when you get to the corporate side, is like, I've met so many smart people, so many amazing people that have gone different routes, right? Engineering, actuarial, some of them not even formally qualified, that just by through their life experiences are so much better at even what I'm doing at it, right? And when I realized that, and when you realize that actually the CASA thing, it's part of the journey. like I am a firm believer in that it will give you the tools that, if you allow it to, will help you to really ramp you up. It's like going into the race, and the CASA is like the equivalent of being given a Ferrari, where other guys that are maybe just doing normal undergrad is like given a VW Polo, and now you're gonna have to start the race. But if you're not able to drive, then it's pointless. And I've seen a very important thing that one guy told me. It was one of my seniors. He said not all CASAs are created equally, which was mind blowing, because I thought, okay, you get the degree and you're there, you get the qualification, but it's such it's part of your tool set. It's not the end. And if you leave it there, if you believe that once I just get the CASA that I'm done, then your degree, your qualification is going to be, you're going to end up in a dead end job. You're going to end up doing things that you hate, or just cruising along, plateauing. And the alternative to that is like what I've learned now over the period is that it's constant learning, constant upskilling, constant upgrading that needs to be happening all the time. And the CASA gets me a seat at the table. It really does. When you talk to somebody and you're like, I'm a CA, immediately in their mind, from a branding perspective, like Kevin's status has just elevated. Despite the fact that I've got the camera in my hand and it's a wedding or something, they're like, what? But it creates that status in people's minds. And
Mm.
immediately it allows you to have some conversations with top brass that they wouldn't necessarily speak to in anyone else. But if you just leave it at that, then that's all that you're gonna get.
That's
So
so
yeah,
true.
yeah,
I like to say that the CASA is the ticket to the game, but you still have to play the game.
it. That's it. You're on the money there, man.
Any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Yeah, man. I think it's just part of what we're talking about from the journey perspective, and I think you're nailing it as well. Is just as a CASA that we get your branding right, that you actually embrace it, not in an arrogant way, not in a hitey tighty lift up my nose at it, but that you actually understand that it is a brand in South Africa. When you go internationally, when you say that you're a CASA, it carries weight. And I would highly encourage people to really consider how they show up, especially like in this case, if you're on YouTube, you're on LinkedIn, when you're dealing with customers and that. It's very important that you understand that you are a brand. And I've got that, like, it's like this. It's your name, PTY Limited, right? You are the brand, and well, by technical definitions, you can't have a human as an asset, because you can't control a person unless they're a slave. In this case, you can, because you're going to be yourself. So just always be thinking about that, of like, even if you're in employment, if you are being employed now, Kevin PTY Limited is giving off services to the company. How is Kevin PTY Limited showing up? How would you like to show up to everyone else? So once that realization happens, you start realizing, okay, fine, how am I showing up digitally? How am I showing up online? And all of that. And you like, I like going into your profile. I like to check everybody's profile. We all sneaking on each other. So like your LinkedIn page is like your brand that's going on, man. If I'm gonna Google Ways, what am I gonna see about it? And many people don't realize that they are 100% in control of the brand that they have, and they just don't realize that they actually have the keys for that. So yeah, that's something that I try to live. I try to teach people. That's what I'm doing over on my side over there, trying to get the content out to really help people to develop their personal brands.
I think that is a good way to end, knowing that you are your brand. The show has
Yes.
been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks a lot, man. Cheers,
Thanks
bro.
everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.